My aunt's house always felt too quiet for how alive it looked. Every summer, she grew a perfect garden. Vines that wrapped the fence in green lace, lilies opening exactly at sunrise, grass trimmed like it was sculpted. Even in the worst heat, nothing ever wilted. She said it was all in the soil, but I never saw her buy fertilizer or even touch a hose. Last June, I stayed there for 2 weeks after she broke her leg. My job was to water and weed the garden while she rested, but the first time I tried, she stopped me. "No watering after dark," she said. "They don't like it." I thought she meant raccoons. She didn't. On my third night, I woke to a soft humming from outside, like an old radio tuned between stations. Through the window, the garden pulsed faintly, green veins flickering under the moonlight. I stepped out barefoot, the grass cool and damp, though it hadn't rained for weeks. The hum grew louder the closer I got to the flower beds, until I realized it wasn't sound. It was vibration, coming from the ground itself. In the center of the garden, something was moving. Not fast, just a slow shifting of soil, like breath under earth. I crouched, brushed away dirt, and found what looked like a piece of wire poking through the soil. Only it wasn't metal. It pulsed with the same faint light as the vines. When I told my aunt the next morning, she made me swear I hadn't touched it. Her voice shook. "That's not wire," she said. "That's root. It feeds through the whole yard." She told me the garden started growing better after a storm years ago. Lightning had struck the same spot where I'd found the wire. "Something changed," she said. "It started to hum after that." That night, curiosity won again. I went out with a flashlight and a small shovel. The hum began as soon as I stepped onto the grass. When I dug near the glowing root, the soil crumbled like ash. Beneath it wasn't clay, just a hollow blackness, as if the earth ended a few inches down. My flashlight flickered, and a burst of static filled the air, sharp and metallic. Then I heard voices, faint, layered, whispering my name through the static. I dropped the shovel and ran inside. My aunt was waiting at the window, awake, pale. "They noticed you," she said. "Now, you have to listen." The next morning, half the plants were gone. The soil was flat, smooth, like something had swallowed them whole. My aunt made me pack. They'll need new ground, fresh roots. Before I left, I glanced at the garden one last time. The dirt shimmered, rippling toward the porch, and for a moment, I thought I saw a face form under the surface, open-mouthed, screaming without sound. 3 weeks later, the house was condemned. The official report blamed sinkholes. The neighbors said the ground vibrated for days before it collapsed, like a generator buried deep underground. Sometimes, when I drive past the lot, the grass still glows faintly in my headlights. It hums when I roll down the window. If you've ever heard something alive beneath the ground, tell me in the comments. Maybe it's still growing under your street too? When I moved into the new office building downtown, I thought I'd finally escape the strange feeling that someone was always behind me. New job, new start. The place had that clean corporate smell, fresh paint, humming elevators, too much glass. But from the first day, something felt wrong. The building was called the Atrium. 21 floors, all steel and glass, built just a few years ago. I worked the night shift in the IT department, mostly alone after 8 p.m. My job was to monitor server activity, which meant long hours in an open-plan office filled with hundreds of identical desks and screens that all went dark except mine. The security lights stayed on low power at night, so everything had that pale blue tint, like working underwater. Sometimes the reflections in the glass looked like people moving on the other side. But there was no other side, just the city skyline. On my fourth night, I noticed the motion sensor lights near the elevator kept turning on, even when I was the only one on the floor. At first, I figured it was a sensor glitch. Then I realized it always happened at the same time, 2:11 a.m., every night. The elevator doors would open with a chime, but no one would step out. The lights would flicker, then fade again. I mentioned it to the security guard, and he said, that happens. Probably dust in the sensors. But when I asked if he'd ever checked the cameras at that time, his expression shifted, like I'd asked about something people weren't supposed to talk about. That night, I stayed near the elevator, pretending to organize cables. When the clock hit 2:11, the chime sounded. Ding! The doors slid open. Inside, the fluorescent lights flickered wildly, washing the mirrored walls in white. I saw my reflection, but only one. The reflection behind me came half a second late, like it was lagging. Then it smiled. I didn't. I stumbled back, the doors closed, and the lights in the hallway flickered once before stabilizing. My reflection in the glass partition by my desk looked perfectly normal again.
I convinced myself I'd imagined it. Maybe fatigue, maybe just light distortion. But I started noticing smaller things. My coffee mug moved slightly between shifts. My computer logged me in before I typed my password. Once, I saw a figure standing by the window, black silhouette against the lights of the city. But when I turned the corner, there was only an empty chair spinning slowly. A week later, maintenance shut down the 20th floor. They said a pipe burst. No one questioned it. The next day, I got an automatic email from Building Systems, Level 20 access restored. The strange part? I'd never had Level 20 access. At 2:09 a.m., my monitor blinked and opened a file by itself. A live camera feed of the empty 20th floor. Rows of cubicles, chairs, motionless screens. Except one. In the far corner, a monitor flickered like mine. Someone was sitting there. They were typing. I couldn't see their face, but the moment I leaned closer to the screen, the figure on the other end froze, then slowly turned their head toward the camera. My own webcam light came on. The feed went black. I unplugged everything, stood up, and tried to steady my breathing. My reflection in the glass door looked exactly like me. Same shirt, same terrified stare. Except it wasn't moving when I did. It tilted its head the other way. That was the last night I worked there. When I quit, HR acted confused, said my name wasn't on file. No employment record, no ID badge issued. The guard at the front desk swore he'd never seen me before. But the emails kept coming. Every few days, an automated message arrives in my inbox from an address I can't trace. Subject: access granted, floor 20. Attachment: one image file. It's always a photo of me, sitting at my old desk. The newest one arrived last night. I wasn't smiling in it, but the version of me in the picture was. If you've ever worked late in a glass building and caught your reflection watching back, maybe you've already been added to the system. If this story made you check your reflection twice, hit like and subscribe. It helps keep these real accounts alive. Comment below. Would you stay late to find out what's on the other floor, or get out while you still can?
I used to work night shifts at a textile factory on the outskirts of the city. The factory closed at 2 a.m., and by the time I got to the metro station, it was always empty. The trains ran every 40 minutes after midnight, slow, half-lit, and eerily quiet. That night, the air outside felt heavier than usual. The fluorescent lights above the platform flickered, buzzing like trapped insects. I checked the screen. Last train, 2:40 a.m. When it arrived, it screeched louder than usual. Only one car was lit. The rest were completely dark. I stepped inside, sat near the door, and watched my reflection in the window blur as the train started to move. A few stops later, I realized something. The intercom wasn't announcing stations. There were no other passengers. And outside the windows, there were no lights, just tunnels that went on forever. I pressed the stop button, but nothing happened. My reflection stared back at me, motionless. Then the lights flickered, once, twice, and in the glass, my reflection smiled. I didn't. I looked behind me. No one was there. When I turned back, the reflection was gone entirely. The window now showed only blackness, until words began to appear on the fogged glass, written from the other side. Stay seated. I froze. The train began to accelerate. I grabbed my bag, stood up, and tried to move to the next car, but the connecting door wouldn't budge. I banged on it, shouting, but my voice felt swallowed by the hum of the rails. Then the car's lights turned off completely. Total darkness, except for the faint red emergency light above the door. Through the dim glow, I could see someone sitting at the far end. A silhouette, perfectly still, facing me. I called out, "Hey, is this the last train?" No reply. As I took a step closer, the red light flickered again, and the figure disappeared, only to reappear 2 seats closer. Another flicker, closer again. The hum of the rails grew into a deep mechanical groan, vibrating through the floor. I stumbled backward, and the emergency light burst, leaving only the faint pulse of the exit sign above the door. In that final moment before everything went dark, I saw it, my own reflection standing in front of me, staring, but its eyes were completely black. When the lights came back, the train had stopped. The doors opened onto a platform I didn't recognize. No signs, no people, just damp concrete and a single flickering light overhead. I ran out, turned around, and the train was gone. Not even the sound of wheels fading away, just silence. I climbed the stairs, hoping to reach the surface, but the exit was bricked up. There was only one thing written on the wall in spray paint: no trains after 2:40. When I finally found my way back to the surface through a service tunnel, it was already dawn. I asked a nearby worker about the old line, and he frowned. "That route's been closed since 2009, he said. "Collapsed tunnel. Whole sections buried." I checked my phone. 2:40 a.m., no service, no recent calls. And when I looked at my reflection in the cracked screen, it smiled. If you ever ride a late train alone and the windows start to fog up, don't look too close. And if you liked this story, hit like and subscribe before the next train arrives.